One of the strangest things about early YouTube wasn't the content, it was the closeness. Creators talk straight into the camera from their bedrooms, their cars, their dorm rooms. They vlogged about their day, their drama, their burnout, their pets, and for a lot of viewers, especially younger ones, that didn't feel like watching a show, it felt like they were hanging out. So, when fans later say it felt like we were friends, they're not exaggerating. They're describing exactly what the platform encouraged, whether it meant to or not. Today, I want to talk about the illusion of access, why early YouTube made closeness feel normal, and why fans believed they had real relationships with creators, and why this dynamic showed up everywhere, not just in one high-profile case. Early YouTube didn't feel like media. That was the whole selling point. There were no studios, no polished sets, no obvious distance between the creator and the viewer. Cameras were bad, lighting was even worse, and you could usually see a bed, a laundry pile, or a poster taped to the wall. Creators talked to you. They answered comments in follow-up videos. They pinned replies. They shouted out usernames like it was a roll call. And because this was happening before most people had language for parasocial relationships, it didn't feel artificial. It felt personal. You weren't just watching someone online. You were growing up with them. Or at least that's how it felt. A huge part of this was access. Creators shared everything. Their insecurities, their family issues, their breakups, their mental health, and sometimes in real time, which reads as vulnerability, and vulnerability reads as trust. When someone opens up to you, your brain does what brains do, and it fills the gap and says, oh, we're close. But that closeness was still one-sided. Viewers knew everything about the creator, but the creator knew almost nothing about the viewer, beyond their username, a profile picture, and maybe a few DMs that they shared. Emotionally, though, it didn't feel that uneven, especially if you were 12. Then platforms added features, and things got weird. Private live streams, paid tiers, fan discords, group chats, Twitter replies that always seem to involve the same 5 people. You've seen this dynamic. A creator has a core group of fans who get more access than everyone else. They get inside jokes, they get replies, sometimes they even get invited into private spaces to help moderate or keep things positive. Being noticed feels special. Being included feels earned. And being chosen feels like trust. And when you're young or lonely or deeply invested, it's incredibly easy to mistake that access for friendship, especially when the creator is joking, venting, oversharing, and saying things like, you guys get me, which, sure, but also not really. There was also a very clear reward system. Some fans learned quickly that if you replied fast enough, defended hard enough, or stayed visible enough, you got attention. Likes, replies, maybe even a follow. The result was a group of unofficial spokespersons. The fans who answered questions on the creator's behalf, who explained their jokes, who jumped into arguments to say, you're taking this out of context. They weren't hired. They weren't paid. They were just very emotionally invested. And from the creator's perspective, this often felt helpful, supportive even. From the fans' perspective, it felt like proximity to power, which is not a great dynamic to build accidentally. None of this was unique. This pattern showed up in vlogging channels, beauty YouTube, gaming spaces, commentary channels, anywhere relatability was the brand. You guys are my family. I wouldn't be here without you. I love you so much. which is emotionally true in one direction and structurally false in another. But early YouTube rewarded that language. The closer you seemed, the more loyal your audience became. And loyalty translated directly into engagement, growth, and eventually income. So closeness wasn't just encouraged, it was incentivized. When people ask why fans didn't see the imbalance, the answer is actually very simple. Because no one told them to. There weren't rules yet. There wasn't widespread media literacy around parasocial relationships. Parents, teachers, and even creators were still figuring out what YouTube was. So when a creator treated fans like friends, fans assumed that was what was happening, especially young fans who were being shown a version of closeness without boundaries and told it was normal. If someone older, popular, and admired treats you like a peer, you don't question it, and you feel lucky. The problem with this kind of closeness is that it doesn't scale. What feels manageable at 50,000 subscribers becomes overwhelming at 5 million. The same behaviors that once felt harmless start to feel dangerous. Fans expect access. Creators feel pressure to maintain that intimacy, and boundaries get blurry. Then something goes wrong. And when it does, the fallout is intense. Because you're not just losing a creator you liked, you're losing someone you thought you had a relationship with. And that hurts in a very, very specific way. Even though platforms have changed, the bones of the system are still there. Creators still monetize closeness. Audiences still crave that authenticity. Platforms still reward engagement that feels personal and emotional. The difference is that now we have language for it. We call it parasocial. We talk about boundaries. We side-eye certain behaviors a lot faster. But the illusion of access hasn't disappeared. It's just gotten more polished. The problem wasn't that fans cared too much. The problem was that a system encouraged closeness without boundaries and called it authenticity. Early YouTube didn't just create parasocial relationships, it normalized them. And once that door was open, a lot of people walked through without realizing what they were stepping into. And when we talk about situations like Colleen Ballinger's, it's tempting to treat them as isolated scandals. One creator, one set of bad choices with one big implosion. But what made that situation possible wasn't just one person. It was an entire era of internet culture that blurred boundaries, rewarded closeness, and told fans that access meant connection. And next time, I want to zoom out even further to look at how creators tried to protect themselves as that culture started to shift. Because when the illusion of access begins to crack, satire often steps in as a shield. Thank you so much for joining me. If you're new here or just love learning about internet culture, video games, and pop culture history through a historian's lens, go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next episode. And as always, feel free to comment your thoughts below and I will catch you in the next one. Bye!